Ronan Flood is my guest today. Longtime caddy for Padraig Harrington. Tons of success together. Padraig's been in the media a lot lately. Ronan doesn't do a lot of interviews, so it was great to hear from him over the next 45, 50 minutes. He has some tremendous insight. All right, joined now by a friend of mine, fellow Olympic teammate, all the way from Ireland, longtime caddy for Padraig Harrington, 20 years now, Ronan Flood. Welcome to Quiet Please. Thanks for joining.
How are we doing, John?
I'm doing good.
To be on. Yeah, we've tried to get this organized for a while, but we finally got there. I do find it unusual to call you John Rathouse, though, seeing as we did christen you Sean O'Chock Francock at the Olympics.
Unbelievable. And, you know, I only get that from you guys, but I do like telling people about that. I mean, maybe you recollect a little bit about how we landed on Sean O'Chock Francock as I was like on Team Ireland with, you know, you, Padraig, Seamus, Paul McGinley, the five of us, and you said, no, this John's not going to work.
Well, John isn't too bad. Was the Rathouse wasn't so Irish, so we had to. So what was it? Sean is John, and then Rathouse, Chock Francock, from what we were told, is the House of Rat in Irish. So you are Sean of the House of Rat.
Love it, love it. So and you guys.
Yes.
Every time I see you guys, I had a chance to see you in April this year in San Antonio. I mean, always lovely to see you and Padraig. And when you drop that Sean or Chock Francock, it always brings me back to the Olympics.
Yeah, well, you're still saved in my phone as Sean or Chock Francock. So that's, as I say, when I see John Rathouse come up in an email, I'm like, who's this guy?
Love it. So I had a chance to go over there one time, I guess, in 19 and had an absolute blast and hope to come back again some other time.
Wasn't it Hinch? You caddied the Hinch?
Yeah. I mean, you know, think about all the great places in Ireland to go golf, and I'd be interested to know what your favorite is, but I know Le Hinch is oftentimes people's top three over there. So
it's right up there. Yeah. Well, it's a great, because you got the golf course that's pretty much in the town.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's, I suppose it's a little bit like St. Andrews for Ireland in that the golf course is there, the town is there. So when you were there, I remember right, they shut the town down to cars, so the whole street it was like a party atmosphere festival on the street for the week, wasn't it?
Unbelievable. And you're right. That's the shortest walk I've ever had to the golf course in my entire career. And it sounds like it's a bit of an anomaly. I'd say
you've had longer walks from green to tees than you had from your accommodation to the first tee.
Absolutely. That's true. That's true. Well, you know, I want to start in just a little bit. Congratulations first on your most recent victory with Padraig at the Dicks. You guys now have 3 Dicks in a row. Which
I never thought I'd know a guy with 3 Dicks.
So yeah, I mean that was great to see. I feel like every time I'm pulling up the leaderboard on the Champions Tour, especially the last few years since you guys have been out there, he's clocking wins or he's in the mix. I mean, I think I added up about 8 wins now. So. You know, congrats on that. I was listening to a interview from him just yesterday, and he kind of talked a little bit about how maybe even prior to joining the Champions Tour, like Padraig kind of had this like mindset shift. Like he just said he had a change of pace, like where he just knew that he couldn't grind the way he used to. He was fortunate to be out, you know, have the juices flowing, and then, you know, got out there in the Champions Tour and it clicked pretty immediately. I think you guys had that win at the U.S. Senior Open in 2022. So I guess you noticed since you've been out there with him, just his play and how you've enjoyed it out there, you know, as a guy that's been caddying for 20 years.
I think it's a different pace out there. There's like more the practice days and pro-am days is more relaxed. They don't change once the gun goes off, it's the same. They're as competitive as ever. So that doesn't change, but it does change. You see, they're all a bit more relaxed in the practice days. Look, we played practice rounds in golf carts. Some of the players play in carts. So it's much quieter. The Monday, sort of, if you're there Monday through Thursday, we don't start till Friday now. It's only 3 rounds. So those days are quieter. You don't have the same buzz as you would have at a PGA Tour event or European Tour event because you don't have manufacturers and people around. So it's quieter, less people, only 78 in the field. But once it goes on, once they start in the first tee, they don't change. It's, you know, the competitive animal comes out in them and they want to do well.
Yeah, so that makes sense. And you have one of the best most competitive animals there is.
Yeah.
I mean, if there ever was, I would love to hear some more of your insights on that. Before we go down that road, I also kind of finally from Padraig got the story on how you first got your start, and I think like if you do the math, it sounds like it was in 2004, and your brother and him were friends growing up. You're the younger brother, so you've known him your whole life, but you're starting your career in the banking world, and Padraig's ready to make a caddy switch, and here you come to kind of fill in for 3 weeks time, and now here we are 20 years later.
Well, yeah, that was it. See, I had done the same. So in 1990, he had started on tour in '96. He had an older caddy, Johnny Riley, caddy from then until the end of '98, and he was finishing with Johnny and looking for a new caddy. So in '98, I did 4 weeks for him just while he was looking for he wanted to, like, he didn't want to go out and start asking people in the '80s. He wanted them to come to him.
Yeah.
So I was just there to let people knew if I was caddying that he was looking for a caddy.
Mm-hmm.
So then fast forward 2004, the same thing happened. He'd got Dave McNeely came in '98 and took over from Johnny Riley. And 2004, then he was finishing with Dave. I was working in banking here in Ireland, and I was, had been for 3 years debating where was I going to stay in Ireland, maybe think of going to New York or London. And he asked me would I do a few weeks again, same thing, while he just for come out, people would know he was looking for a caddy. And I said, perfect. It suited me at the time because I was kind of debating where I was going to go within banking, and took a career break from the bank. I went out thinking I was going to be going for like kind of probably 3 weeks or 4 weeks, and never went back. Yeah. The real world wasn't quite as exciting as this world.
Well, yeah, for sure. I agree with that. When you did that back in the 90s, then did you like it back then? Did you guys have some success? Like, I mean, did it make sense when he asked you again?
So I did 4 weeks. The first week was the Lancome Trophy in Paris. Great event. We missed the cut. Went to Euro Disney for the weekend, and then second week was the Linda German Masters in Cologne, and we played in the last group on the Saturday with Monty, and then the second last group on Sunday. So Monty, that was when Monty was like really top of the game. He was I think Paddy finished maybe about 5th or so that week. Then the following week was Belgium Open, probably top 20 or so there. And then the last week was the old Dunhill Cup format when it was the 3-man team event.
Oh.
So it was Padraig, McGinley and Clark. And you played a round robin through Saturday, and then the top teams in the group went through to Sunday. So we didn't get out of the group, but that was the 4 weeks. So it had gone okay. We'd had good weeks. We'd done everything, missed the cut, had a good week, had contended, and had an average week. So it was fine. I think we had known each other for years at that stage, so it was easy. We got on well. And then, as I say, the same thing when he was changing again in 2004. He was wondering what I do a few weeks. So started Memorial 2004.
Okay, Memorial 2004. But then you guys won pretty quickly after.
Not one. We got the second week. Memorial. We finished again. I'd say, somewhere like 25th, something like that. And then the following week was the Buick Classic in Westchester.
Okay.
And we got beaten in a playoff there. Sergio beat us in a playoff with Sergio, Rory, Sabatini, and Paddy in a playoff.
Oh, wow.
So lost that on, I think it was the second playoff hole to Sergio.
Gotcha.
So, and then the third week was the US Open in Shinnecock that Retief won, 2004.
I gotcha. Okay, you guys have run into Sergio in playoffs a lot over your years, huh?
We have, yeah. I suppose Paddy, because they played a lot in Europe as well. But yeah, they probably, I'd say maybe numbers wise they might be the same. But I think Paddy's come out the better of us in terms of the ones that he managed, the ones that he won compared to Sergio's ones, I suppose. Yes. Yeah,
the first major there, that was the real big one that was
2007. Yeah, that was the playoff with Sergio in 2007 in Carnoustie.
So I was watching just recently, maybe like a month ago, Padraig gets inducted in the World Golf Hall of Fame, like highly deserving achievement, and especially just like, and I'd like to pick your brain on this, like what he's giving back to golf right now. is unbelievable. Obviously his playing achievements speak for themselves as well, but he's really an ambassador for the game at the moment. But like, he had this acceptance speech, and I don't think you were there. I got the sense that maybe you were.
I was there. No, I went. I did go.
Okay.
Yeah.
You were there. Okay, great. And so he gets to tell him this story about the 07 win at Carnoustie, and that he hits it in the burn off the tee on the last hole, and then he hits it into the burn again, and he's kind of making a mess of the hole, and you're walking to the ball, and you're kind of giving him the old cliches and stuff.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you've been there. We've all been there. That's what we do. It's just you just keep talking to them, isn't it? Like, you just try and get them out of their. Well, everybody's different. I suppose Paddy's someone who goes a little quiet and starts thinking. Other guys lose the head, but Padraig doesn't lose the head. So yeah, I was just talking to him going down, trying to get him to start talking back, so that he's thinking about what he's trying to do, and that more so than like. I say you yourself. You have to. There's always, everybody has something to do, but it's you're trying to get them to respond back to you so that they are at least ready to hit the next shot.
Mm-hmm. And that was your role in that moment. Obviously, like one of the biggest golf holes, in your guys' career together. And then he gets his stuff together. Like he said, he goes, by the time I hit that next shot, I felt like I was a teenager again. And ends up, making a double bogey to get into a playoff after Sergio missed on the last hole. And then you guys go out there in the playoff and beat him. Yes. But he said, in his acceptance speech, he goes, well, at the time when I was walking up to that next shot, I said, I felt like I lost the fucking Open. And, and then he said he was retelling the story to all these people in the month afterwards. And finally you were in the room when he retold the story.
Well, what happened was he was doing a talk with one of our local county GA teams. I'm not sure, it could have been the Tipperary hurling team or someone like that. And he was talking about this, and I happened to be in the room at the end and heard him telling the story. And at the end, I was just saying, well, listen, I thought he had lost the fucking Open as well. As they said, it wasn't the case. Like, at that moment, as I say, I was just kind of thinking, how is he going to get over this, more so than, like, yes, you're trying to get it back, and you're always trying to make the best score as you can in any hole, and just see where it comes. But at that point, yes, it did feel like when we were going down there, you had lost it.
Yeah.
But as you know, we can't let on that in our job. We have to, play the poker face and let them believe that we're fully behind them and believe that it is still possible, even if it's improbable.
Yeah, I thought that was absolutely brilliant. It was a good mic drop moment for him, and he obviously gave you some credit there. I'm glad you were there for it.
Yes, no, it was very good. It exceeded my expectations, because we don't have Hall of Fames here in Ireland. It's not something that you would, people over here would really know much about or have heard of it. It is more of an American thing. So I wasn't sure what it was going to be like, but it was a great evening, really good.
That's it. That doesn't surprise me that there aren't Hall of Fames in Ireland. Like, you guys just do a great job of always keeping each other on the same level playing field.
Yeah. I think I don't know whether that's not something that they have different things, like over the years they have various, public votes who's like, he's won being the most Ireland's best sports, all-time sports star, things like that. Like, but they have those every few years, so it kind of changes depending on who's doing well. But no, we wouldn't have something that we don't have a Hall of Fame such that someone goes into, and like a criteria for going into it and that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something that would be. It would be more American. I suppose more people know of it now that Paddy's gone in, but it would have been unusual to us. Yes.
You guys went on a run there. I mean, 07 Carnoustie, then you go back and you're defending the next year. And
we won again in Birkdale the following year, 08.
Yeah, one in Birkdale. In fact, I remember when we were out to dinner, I think in Connecticut, you and me and Seamus and Padraig and maybe a friend of yours, and we were going out to dinner, and I knew that he had won at Carnoustie in 07, and I knew he had won back to back. And I don't know, I said, I think you were going to Birkdale this year. It would have been like 2017, I don't know, maybe 18, something like that. And I was like, where's the Open at this year? And you go, oh, Birkdale. I said, have you been there before, Padraig? Yeah. And I wasn't trying to take a piss out of him. I was just like, I was asking. I mean, I knew he had probably been there. He's like, are you serious?
Yeah, yes.
Like, I won that one.
Yeah, he had. Yeah, I remember that you asked, and he was slagging you, saying yes, yeah, he had managed to. He'd been there and happened to win around it. Yes, yeah.
And it was a brutal week of weather. I mean, it was an over par winning
Oh,
score.
it was horrendous week. I mean, that first morning was horrendous. We played with Justin Leonard in the first round and Brian, Smitty. Brian,
Mm-hmm.
I think Brian is it Brian his first name? I already know.
Who's now with Zach Johnson?
Zach Johnson, yes.
Yeah.
And we're on like the fifth hole, and he came over and he says, I'm just useless here. He says his book was just gone. The rain had he couldn't even open pages in it.
Right.
A yardage book was irrelevant anyway because it didn't matter if you were 90. Like yardage was gone out the window because you could hit any club you wanted from 100 yards. If it was into the wind, keep and downwind anything you wanted as well. So it was lashing rain, blowing a gale. It was brutal. One of the worst mornings I've been on a golf course. It picked up in the afternoon for the guys. I remember we played 17 was it took 3 good shots to get to 17 on that day when we played. And I remember sitting back in the house watching it. Myself and Paddy were sitting back watching it, and we're watching. I think it was Adam Scott was the first guy we saw playing 17, and he was knocking her over the back in 2 with an iron. Yeah. So we were like, yeah, it wasn't. Luckily, it worked out in the end. But we were thinking at that point, we thought we'd been screwed with the draw.
Right. Yeah, and it's the weather could change so fast over there, and I don't have a ton of experience. Like the La Hinch was my only links caddying experience, and I got to think though. But for you guys, like growing up, you often get that credit, playing in that weather over in Ireland and Scotland, and then you go to an Open Championship, and just him having that experience growing up and just playing there had to come in handy when you go out there and you get really trying conditions at an Open Championship. And then it just plays.
There's no doubt it's an advantage to know what it's like to have been in it before. It does make it hard for guys who are not used to it to play in it. But it certainly, it's not it's not that we would enjoy playing and caddying in that weather, but at least we know we have a bit more experience in it. That's all.
Yeah, exactly. I think I've heard. Yeah, I think you guys a lot of times you get on the first tee and it's a rainy day on tour, and everybody's like, "Oh, just like back at home,"
Yeah, just like home. You say, yeah, everyone's like, just like home. Yeah,
and you're like, I don't like being out in the rain either.
No, we don't play it anymore. Yeah, if it's raining, I look at it. If it's raining now, I don't go.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Do you play a lot of golf these days? Like, what's your?
When I'm home, I play. Yeah. I play I'm playing on playing Sunday in Portmarnock.
Nice.
May play possibly another game on Friday, just depending on. I could play 2 or 3 times in a week, or I mightn't play at all in the week I'm home. It just depends on what's on and that.
Sure. What do you play to right now? Do you keep a handicap?
I keep a handicap. So we've just moved to your system, the US system of the best scores out of 20. So I'm currently a 0.2 index is what it tells me. I'm still trying to figure out what that means because it's not quite like where we used to have a handicap. You could tell someone what handicap you were. Now it's like my index is 0.2. That's so it varies whatever course I go to. Right.
Yeah. I remember talking to Seamus about that, and he just said the handicaps over here in America. He's like that you add to that one. I mean, people's handicaps are not accurate versus you go over, where you guys are, and everybody, is used to recording scores, putting out things, and
we hold everything out. Yes, maybe over here, like you play competition. The clubs will have competitions every Saturday and Sunday. So we're used to playing competitions. It has to go in the hole. There's no gimmies, no breakfast balls. It's real golf.
Right. So when you and Padraig, have you guys played some golf together anytime recently? Like, do you guys play?
We're playing this Sunday. I haven't played for a while now, but we'll be playing this. We're having a game this Sunday.
Awesome. Well, I'll have to check in with you and see how that went.
Yeah. So we're playing a pub and I have more chance. I can, with shots, I can kind of figure it out around the links course is more likely. That's my advantage. Mm-hmm. If we played a proper tournament course, I wouldn't have a chance.
Yeah. Well, then, so this year, in a couple weeks' time, be at Royal Troon. And people listening in here, obviously all sorts of people listening to this, like, give us some background on Royal Troon and how people might expect to see that play this year. What the unique challenges there are from your time around that place over the years.
A couple of times. I think the first year we might have missed the cut. Last time we were there was think was it Ernie won there last time? I think that's where Ernie won against Scotty, wasn't it?
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, Ernie.
Like from what I remember of it, it's a good, fair, tough test of a links. One of the things with them is that you got to try and avoid the fairway bunkers in most links, is they're just straight penalties.
Mm-hmm.
But we've had a very wet, like Ireland and the UK have had a wet winter and summer, so I'd expect it to be pretty green, lusher than normal, and probably heavier rough. So it'll play more like you always want. Like there's no doubt anywhere you play like fair to come off the fairway, but a lot of times in links you can, depending on the way the wind is and the angles, it's not so bad. Whereas I think rough should be heavier this time.
Right.
Haven't heard of anybody who's played it, but I'd be expecting that it is a bit lusher than normal.
That makes sense. Yeah. You get those lies that where you're watching at home on TV and you're like, oh man, there's no way he can get it out of this. And it's a dry summer and all of a sudden takes a lash and the ball's like hop on the green, no problem.
Yeah. The dryness is not so bad because it just comes very fast, where like it'll fly and run a long way, and it can make, clubbing off the tee box can be tricky when it gets so dry. So like Carnoustie, the year that Molinari won, I remember in a practice round on the 18th hole, Padraig drove it in the burn, up at the green, which is like 450 yards.
Right.
Anything going down the fairway was just nothing to stop it. But I don't think I'm not expecting that it'll be playing as firm as normal now when we get over there. Yeah. Just with the way it has been, weather hasn't been. Look, even here now for July here in Dublin, it's still rainy and cooler than normal. So sure. Yeah. I'd expect Scotland to be something similar.
That's a good nugget. And just talk about that a little bit. Like I remember being out with him practice rounds. He's got his own theories on how he plays practice rounds. I mean, you guys are very joined at the hip when you're talking strategy out on the course during practice rounds. It seems like, from what I read from him, that there's some moments where maybe the night before one of those final rounds that you guys won the major, I don't know if it was at Carnoustie or Birkdale or earlier in the week, it was kind of like you talked about some certain holes, if this, then that. I guess take us into the strategy that you guys employed together.
Well, Carnoustie, I suppose, like his first one, but that was, I suppose, Carnoustie when Padraig won. That was the first time back since '99 when obviously Paul Lawrie won the Open, but we remember it more as John Van de Velde lost the Open, if you remember.
Right.
So I think everybody that week in practice, when you got to 18, you talked about John Van de Velde. Now we've been back many times. We played at Dunhill there every year, but it's still different when it was the Open. So like we had talked about the strategy of the 18th on the Tuesday. We said, well, straightforward, if you're one behind, level, or one ahead, you hit driver and try and win the tournament. And if you were more than one ahead, well then lay it up and play it a 3-shot hole and take out the chance of, say, taking a big number. And as it turns out, in 2007 we got to do both. In that he got to the final hole. I think at the time when he stood in the last, he was one ahead, hit driver, hit it in the water. Obviously, as we know, he took the double bogey. But then we went and played a playoff against Sergio, and it's a 4-hole playoff.
Yeah.
So we played 1-2. Paddy birdied the first, Sergio bogeyed, so he's 2 ahead. We played 1, and then we went to the second hole was 16, then on par 3. So 1, 16, 17, 18. So when we got to the 18 tee, Paddy was 1 under, Sergio was 1 over. So we were now in our situation of 2 ahead. So we hit a hybrid off the tee, laid it up then for the second shot and pitched on. Mm-hmm. So we had discussed that on the Tuesday, and we'd set that, like, that was kind of set in stone as such, whereas we wouldn't necessarily normally be as set on a hole as we are with that. But that was more the scenario. For the final round, we had talked about it, and he doesn't look at leaderboards when we're playing. So he doesn't want to know. He's not looking up and seeing where it is. But if he wants to know, he'll ask me. So I watch the leaderboard. I know where we're at, what's happening, and then if he needs to know to change strategy, I'll tell him. We decided. So in Carnoustie, the 14th, par 5, and it's a blind tee shot. There's a bunker at about 275 out on the right off the tee. You can't see. There's bunkers down the left. So it's a little bit of an awkward tee shot, but it's a very reachable. Like, you can reach it laying up with the bunker on the right. You can also hit driver down there and probably end up with an 8 iron to it. Mm-hmm. So that was the hole we had decided was. That was the one. When you get there, we want to know where we stand there. If we're chasing, okay, you take it on. He would very rarely hit driver off that tee. All the years in Dunhill, we always lay it up with that right-hand bunker and hit a longer club in. But what we decided was that if we get to 14 and we're chasing, well, then you hit driver, get a shorter club, try and make eagle. So when we got to 14 on that day, so he hadn't looked at the leaderboard. He was just like, he got up in the tee and he saw me pulling out the 5 wood, which was the club that would keep him short at the right-hand bunker. So he, as he says himself, he kind of had to step back. He'd step back, had an extra little kind of deep breath, and realised that, okay, he was right in contention here. He didn't know what he was leading at that moment, but he knew that we didn't need to be. We weren't chasing anyway, so it was either he was tied or leading, as he knew at that stage.
Yeah, I thought that was great. That it was kind of like you didn't tell him how many he was up by or that he was leading. It was like, no, this is our play. But then it clicked in his head that
that was the thing. He knew, because he knew as soon as he got in the tee and was about to ask, and he just saw me pulling out the 5 wood. So he was like, I think he just kind of looked at me and went, okay, right, okay, so it's 5 wood, and it was just, I could see he was just a little bit like, okay, I'm sure he knew, because obviously he was playing so well. He was, I think he was 6 under. What was he? Maybe 4 under par. Maybe at that stage was he 6 eagles. He ended up eagling 14, I think, to get to 6 under. He shot 4 under in the final round, so he's probably 4 under at that stage. The crowd had really swelled to follow him when there was a big buzz. So he would have had. You knew you were going well, and the crowd were following. But I think it was a little bit of a kind of a, wow, okay, so this is it. We talked about this. We're hitting 5 wood, and he knew then what it meant. And as it turned out, he hit the 5 wood 2 yards short of the bunker. Yeah, hit a 4 iron down to the edge of the green and hold for eagle. So it worked out, thankfully.
He loves the slop. You're right in there with him. I mean, handling major pressure. It just seems like it suits him, his mental outlook and yours. I guess how have you managed his mental? I mean, maybe you don't manage it, but like take note of his mentality and then make adjustments on your end and how you are maybe as a caddy when you're in those moments as well over the years.
Well, I always say, I suppose, look, I'm not hitting the shot, so I don't. It's if I was hitting the shot, it'd be very different. But when I'm not hitting the shot, it's like, it's exciting being into contention and stuff, but is it like I don't think necessarily like it's not nervous, and it's an excitement, and the buzz of being in contention in any tournament is great. But it's like he has to hit the shot, so I give him the information. He has to, we'll make a decision. He'll make the final decision, and then go with it. But like over the years, you get to know. Like you would have known Seamus. Like, so Seamus is the guy you caddy for the longest, so you'd know by their mood, how he's feeling. He doesn't have to say things to you, So that's why I say, like, 18 in Carnoustie is a good example. I know Padraig can get a little quiet, so you just start talking, just keep talking, and then just like, that was probably the longest. Like most of the time we come around to talking quicker. That one took longer, but it's keep talking to him. He enjoys the being in contention, having the battle. He likes the competitive nature, the battle of it. So I'd say it's probably harder for him at times is actually the first probably 36, 54 holes are nearly harder for him, because he enjoys the battle at the end, whereas like much more so than it's harder if you can getting to that point, it's harder actually for him than it is, whereas other people find getting there easier and then getting over the line harder. Yeah.
That makes sense. Well, and you guys are good friends too. And I'm curious about some of that stuff. He had some great comments, but like looking at another duo, not as long as you guys, but Rory McIlroy and Harry Diamond have been successful here for a long time now. And Rory had another close call at the US Open at Pinehurst. I'm curious if you after that event's over, if you fire a text to Harry or to Rory, and kind of how you guys.
I didn't after that, in the sense that look, when I see him, you say, look, hard luck, it happens, but we would fire each other texts after a win and stuff and things like that. Like, but we've all been there. It doesn't go your way at times. It's kind of like we all have our own ways of dealing with that. So I didn't want to be, texting him and going hard luck and tough. He knows it was hard luck. It's like you lose things. We've all like. Look, I've been looking at Caddie for Paddy, and he's won a lot, but we've lost a lot as well. So you've got the good and the bad days, and you just, we all deal with that in our own way. So at times I'm not sure. Like I know Harry, and I'm friendly with Harry, but it's different. If I get a text from one of my best mates at home, like when the things are shitty, that's a bit different than kind of like. I didn't think I needed to be texting Harry, or Harry didn't need to be reading a text from me saying hard luck, in that sort of way. But we'll see him. He texted me after Paddy won in Dix there a couple of weeks ago, and back and forth. So, look, Harry's a great guy. I think he does a great job for Rory. I think, unfortunately, he gets a lot of flack in the press, but I think that's. I can understand it, because I got a bit of that when I started on tour as well. In Europe more so than the States, not so, because they didn't really know Paddy, but in Europe, so I would have got a bit of that flack. So but that's what you have to deal with. Harry knows that. It's not. Look, they've won everything in the game bar a major at this stage, so it's not a question of are they going to win one. They will happen. It's just things happen. They go against you at times, and when he wins one, like they'll probably win 5 or 6.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's great. That's great insight. What about were you present when Shane won up there in Northern Ireland, and then he has?
Yeah. We were myself and Paddy were waiting for him. Like we were part of the crew, kind of waiting at the back of the green. It was great. I think not just winning an Open is great, but I suppose like to win Portrush was. If it wasn't going to be Paddy, it was great. It would be a shame that I would want to see win it. So that it really was a great occasion. I think as much for obviously huge for him and Bo, who was caddying from his time, but for Ireland as well, in the sense that it was the Open was being held in Ireland, even like Portrush, massive. It was huge. It was massive for everybody here.
Yeah. Do you when you guys have a lot of fun with whoever you're out there with, when you're out on the Champions Tour, or, maybe you're playing on the regular tour and it's time to go out to dinner and stuff, who do you guys get really excited about to go to dinner with?
We look forward to, there's no doubt you look forward to when we're back in the regular tour, going with Shane and Bo when he was caddy, and Darren now. It's a bit like we like going for dinner with our own crew, in the sense of like anyone from Ireland who's around, because when you're away, you like to talk about home. You like to, the slagging's a little bit different when you're slagging people from home. It's just it's no different. Like if you guys were away, if you were over here, you'd be eating out a lot with someone from America, just in that sense. But over the years, we had great dinners with Phil Mickelson. Always had a great time with Phil. Good to play with, and great fun afterwards. Pretty much, look, I'm easy going, Paddy's easy going. We'd enjoy once we go for dinner. I'm going out for enjoyment and to knock a bit of fun out of the dinner. So it's whoever's coming, they're going to slag me, I'm going to slag them. We're going to and you're looking to enjoy your evening rather than sit there with saying the last thing you're going to be doing is sitting there kind of just talking golf all night and that. So we're trying to get away from golf when we go for dinner.
Sure. Yeah. And I was, lucky enough to experience some of that with you guys over the years. It's funny you bring up Phil there, and I'm trying to remember, I think I heard this a couple of years ago, and the story, but I think it was Phil and Padraig out to dinner in maybe Japan or something.
Oh, Singapore.
Was covering the tab. I think Padraig was responsible for the tab, maybe.
Yeah, well, it was we were playing the Barclays Singapore Open, and there was an Irish guy, Padraig Harrington, who used to do all the the sponsorship and the tournaments for Barclays. So he would have been organising it and that. And the following week, we were then going to Shanghai for the Champions Tour. It was like the Tournament of the Champions, or HSBC Champions Tournament or something it was called. So we were sitting in the locker room, and then I came out and I said, listen, we were actually the rain delay, I think, on the Wednesday, and I said, we were all sitting around, I said, I'll tell you what we'll do, we'll play, we'll have a match over the course of the tournament, and the losing player and caddy will buy dinner on Sunday night.
Okay.
In the choice of the winning player and caddy's venue. So as it turned out then, during the course of the rest of the week, Paddy and Phil, I think when they were sitting down, decided, look, they altered it to be the losing player would buy, and if it was a tie, Bones and myself would buy.
Okay.
So as it turned out, we had a bad week. Phil, I think, had a good week. He didn't win, but he came close, I think, and we finished down the field. So Paddy ended up having to buy. So Phil had booked a private room in, I think, was it Morton's? I think it was a Morton Steakhouse in the Mandarin in Singapore. And so we arrived, and when we got there was Phil, Bones, Phil's dad was with him, Pat O'Riordan as well, the Barclays guy, the Irish guy. So we were all there. So when we get in, and when we arrive in, the maitre d' brings us down, and we get in there, like every starter on the menu is on the table. They've ordered every starter, and Phil is in the process of picking his what wine they're going to drink and all. So this is all grand anyway. So we're sitting there, and obviously Paddy and myself we're not really drinkers, so certainly not wine drinkers. So we'd had like starter steaks, steak and chips, and a few cokes, and then dessert came out, and it was every dessert. But in the middle of the meal, the maitre d' comes in, and he goes over to Phil, and he says, like, Mr. Mickelson, he says, just had a query from outside. There's an American gentleman outside with his son. It's his son's 18th birthday, and they saw him coming in, and they was wondering, would he mind? Could they come in and say hello? It would be a huge deal for them to meet Phil on the son's birthday. So Phil was like, absolutely, bring him in, no problem. And the guy brings him in, so he's there with his son, they're chatting, and they obviously didn't realise Paddy was there, so they get to meet Phil and Paddy, which is huge from, like, they're both big golf fans, and we're chatting for a while, and then a few minutes they're heading off, and as he's leaving, Phil goes, oh, you're 18, and it says, like, in Singapore, the legal age to drink is 18. And the guy says, oh, yeah. He says, oh, well, great. He says, anyway, so tells the maitre d', he says, send him out a bottle of the wine that we're drinking and put it on my tab, he says. So needless to say, his tab was obviously Paddy's tab because he had lost the bet. So yes, it was. I think it was close to it could have been nearly a five-figure dinner. It was. If it wasn't just over 5, it was just under it. So
right.
It was a sizable dinner, all right.
But
that was part of it wasn't. There was no badness in it. Like, you knew what, like, it was good-natured banter,
Yeah. Recently, Paddy's golf tips is just taken off like wildfire, and his YouTube channel, and he makes these tremendous videos. I gotta assume that a lot of times you're the cameraman on those videos.
Used to do a bit of camera work, but not nowadays. He tends to. It's kind of got a little bit more professional. He has a production company that comes and they film a lot of them together, and then they drip them out during the year. But yeah, he loves it. That would be, there's no doubt. I think the big thing with it is that people always think of Padraig as being very technical, very, they look at him working on things, but he's never been technical in the sense of, like, we'll say, knowing, the position, not knowing the positions, but it would just be where you'd see some people and it'd be so, like, every little bit would be analysed. He was never really that guy. He liked to find something that would do what he was trying to do without him thinking about it, because that wasn't him. So I think his approach to this is actually explaining it in a simpler way that just people can understand, which is actually how he understands it. When someone, that's how when a lot of times when Pete Cowan would give him a lesson, he's kind of nearly translating it in his own head as to how he would do it, rather than would say how Pete is exactly telling him how to do it. That's how he's worked. So I think that's how he's translated it over for his Paddy's golf tips, and it's been a big success. Yeah, he loves it. Like that's he genuinely gets a thrill out of doing that.
Yeah. When he had kind of a drought there after you guys got hot, and then had this great win at the Honda Classic. I think.
Oh yeah, 2000. That was 15. I think 2015.
15.
Beat Daniel Berger in the playoff.
That's right. Beat at a very difficult golf course with very difficult conditions, and I mean it was a huge win for you guys. What do you remember about just kind of being by his side, during the down stuff? I mean, here is 7 years after winning a lot together, and then,
he hadn't won much, all right, no doubt. He played well for a number of years after he won and just been unlucky a few times and didn't, whereas to win, as we know, like whoever you are, you need that little bit of luck. Then sometimes it kind of dries up and it goes against you and you're not sure. Then eventually you're wondering, God, will you do it again? So yes, like he won that. He had won actually the previous early December. He won the Indonesian Open.
Gotcha.
So actually winning the Honda wasn't as big a shock to us. Whereas the Indonesian Open, not that it was a shock, but it was nice. That was the first one for a good while. So when he got into contention in Honda, it wasn't a surprise that he went on and won for us. I think other people wouldn't have known he won in Indonesia, but whatever you're winning, the feelings are always the same. Our job is the same when they're under pressure trying to win, and their job is the same. It might be a bigger or a smaller event, but they feel the same nerves and different things. So, we had gone through that only a few months before, so it wasn't too bad. But yeah, it was still, no doubt, we got rained off on the Sunday in that win. We played, there was a storm at some stage, so we ended up, we got as far as the 7th hole in the final round. Must have been a Saturday because we played, we didn't redraw on the Sunday, I remember. We were playing with Poulter and Patrick Reed, and we got as far as the 8 tee box. We played 7 holes of the final round, then had to come back out on the Monday morning and play from there in.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, look, I remember it was, as it turned out, the rain delay and us getting called in came at a good time. We were on it. I remember those few holes before we were called in on the Sunday night, were a little bit of a wobble. Things weren't quite going our way. So actually, when we got pulled in, it was a nice timing for us, and then came back out. He's always been good. He's always been good, as I say, when he's in the mix and under pressure. So never a surprise. Like even if it never phased him hitting a good shot or a bad shot.
Mm-hmm.
That just didn't bother him. He just got on with it, and it was when he's trying to win, it's just purely trying to win, and whatever way he's won playing well, he's won playing badly. Mm-hmm. But he's just trying. For him, he's always just trying to get the ball in the hole. So when he was in contention, that's actually the easiest days. I would always say, caddying for him has been easy when he's in contention.
Yeah.
When he's not there, it's obviously the job is harder. There's no doubt, as we know, when things aren't going as well.
Sure. But you've always been so steady, and I always look over you on the driving range, and I mean, throw him another ball, and you're just there. And he's a mad scientist. He's tinkering away. He's chasing distance, working on his swing. Sometimes things are going good, sometimes they're not, and you're just very steady. And I think last night, when you alluded to this about nights out, and you guys are usually together on the road, and
we hang out together on the road and that. Yeah.
6 p.m. runs around. We leave the golf course. You're no longer his employee.
We're friends at that stage,
and that makes it, the longevity is there. Yeah.
I like as well. I say like we're talking about the dinners earlier. Is that if you go out for dinner with other people, like yourself and Seamus and stuff, and it just means the conversation is about different things. I think at times, if we shut the two of us and we're never going out with anybody else, well then it would get very hard.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm always happy to go out for dinner with different people, bring them with us go with them, whatever it be, and just enjoy the evening. Like as in, like we're out, we don't have to be, no different. Even if it's not just in the bad time, in the good times, you want to get away from it as well, because if you. I said I've been lucky. Paddy's won an awful lot, so we've had the good days. But the last thing I'll be doing on a Saturday night when he's leading is sitting there talking about golf and folks. Like you're trying to get your mind, you're trying to take their mind off it if you're with them at that time. And And it's the same in when things aren't going well.
Right.
You go out in the evenings, like if things aren't going well, you don't be sitting. Like we've all missed cuts and gone to runs and missing cuts, and the weekends are long when you're in the middle and you missed a cut, and for us, we can't go home because home is back here in Ireland. So you're there at the venue for the weekend, and it means a bit of practice and stuff. But as long as you get away from it somehow, and I say that for me, that's go for dinner with a few people, let's have a laugh. It could be talking about the sport or the election. For us now at the moment, it would be what's going on in the election, the debate a couple of weeks ago, last week, and things so. And all that sort of stuff is just general. Talk about anything bar golf, really.
Yeah. All right. Well, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. Maybe like 5 minutes left here. I guess I got some run through some quick questions. But one thing that we didn't get to yet that I was, mentioned at the top, we got to go to the Rio Olympics together.
Yes.
I mean, it was an absolute blast of a week. I mean, competing for Olympic medals, but then we went to events every night. I remember we got some great photos, you up on the medal stand. It was an absolute.
That was my WhatsApp picture, I think. Yes.
Your WhatsApp. I mean, maybe your favorite memory from that week, and just kind of maybe, hey, we're in an Olympic year. They're going to be in Paris in a month. What you tell those guys that are going over there for the first time?
First impression was I don't think golf should be in the Olympics personally. For me, it's not. I don't think it's an Olympic sport. I think it. And I remember we were going somewhere, and what reminds me all the time of this story is you, me, and Seamus and Paul were getting waiting on a bus to go to one of the sports, and we met this girl from, it was like Puerto Rico or the Dominican Republic, and she was finished competing, I remember, and she was buzzing on this, and we were saying, what were you doing? And how she was some sort of gymnast, and she had finished last in it. But she was she looked like she had won. And we were looking at her, she said she was the first person from her country to compete in the Olympics in her discipline.
Yeah.
And that was her winning the Olympics. And so to me, that's what the Olympics is about. Much more so than guys turned up in golf, and if a golfer wins a gold medal, he goes, "Oh, I've got a gold medal, it's great." So that's my opinion. Yes. But I would say my highlight of the Olympics that we went to was, remember we saw Phelps winning. Yes. Was it the butterfly?
Yeah, I mean,
he sat on the rope and the lane thing afterwards. Where that was his. I mean, I'd say that's one of the best sporting moments that I've been to. I remember the crowd was the whole stadium was rocking at that stage, and obviously he was Mr. Olympics.
Yeah.
But and we met him in Phoenix one year, and I asked him about that, and he was saying that that was his race. That was the one he really wanted to win. He obviously won an awful lot of golds before this, and I think he went on to win maybe a couple more after that race as well. But he said that was his discipline. That was really the one he wanted to win.
Yeah.
And I mean, I remember sitting at it. It was unbelievable. We saw Mo Farah win the 10,000 as well. Remember?
Yes.
Yeah, I couldn't get over how quick the guy ran the last 400 meters. There's no chance. There's no chance. If I went out fresh and ran 400 meters, I could even come close to his final 400 meters.
Yep. Yeah. No, I remember. Yeah, we went. We snuck into the warm-up.
We're in the training ground beforehand, and I remember we're in the pool. We're in the training pool beforehand, and
you were on the track.
On the track, I've got pictures of myself in the starting blocks on the training ground with these guys running around.
Yeah, because we just kind of went where we wanted to. All right. So, have you ever caddied for anyone else?
I've done a few weeks at different times just for a couple of friends. Peter Lowry, who played on the European Tour, we grew up with him as well. So I would have caddied from a tour school and a few other things.
Okay.
Another friend of ours, Noel Fox, who played played Challenge Tour for a while and he played the Joburg Open and caddied from that. So, but other than that, no. So basically, pretty much just Paddy, you would say.
What's your favorite course in Ireland, and maybe the most underrated one? Or
I think my favorite course to play, if I go on links, is Portmarnock. I was a member there when I was in college. They give university membership there to UCD and Trinity to the team. So I always loved a very fair links course. If you were going Parkland, the best parkland in the country, and probably the best parkland in Europe, is Adair Manor.
Yeah,
we're going to have the Ryder Cup there in 3 years.
Yeah,
that's it's like it's at the highest standard you have in America, which is like for here in Ireland is unbelievable. That there's nothing like it like that.
Right.
And then I'd say like a hidden course, enjoyable to play. A lot of that, like there's a number of them. Where I live, I'm lucky. I'm a member of a place Grange, which is McGinley grew up there as well. Small parkland course, fun to play, nice. And then there's another, like within 3 miles of us here, we've got 3 city courses, like Grange, the Castle, and Milton, and they're all just fun, nice courses to play. Not hard, not overly long, and it's like, you know, particularly if you get a nice summer's evening, they're great to play, and there's a good hang out in the clubhouse afterwards. Good fun.
What's your favorite caddy nickname of all time, or one of that comes to mind?
Favorite caddy nickname. Well, I think I always liked Lance Tenbrock. Remember Lance Tenbrock?
Sure.
His one of Last Call Lance was always one of the better ones because he was the last man out of the bar.
Yep.
Other ones. Let me see. I'm trying to think. I'm on the spot now. Where is? There's some good ones in Europe, but you put me on the spot. I'm trying to think of one now. Is
I'm sure.
Who would you say?
They don't happen as much these days, really.
No, there's not as many of them now.
Yeah.
So there's not.
Downwind Vic, you know, you hear that one.
There's Magic Johnson, who is a Scottish caddy from around the Troon area, and he's called Magic Johnson because of Magic Johnson, the basketballer. Like that is like I think he's the same name, but he's probably 5'4" and no chance of jumping to throw a basketball. So yeah, that's who else? God, top of my head now. They'll come to me when I hang up now. But
you text me one and I'll include it. And I'll get out of here on this. The last one, I always like to ask people this. Say you're playing, you know, the Open or the Masters. I've been caddying for you all week. You've got the lead going into the final round, but I'm not able to go on Sunday. I break my leg, pull a Dustin Johnson. If you could just get any caddy in the world or person in the world on the phone, fly him in for the last round to help get you across the finish line, who would you call?
I think if I was to say, I genuinely think one of the best caddies I'd probably put him down as the best caddy that I have encountered and seen in my 20 years, and a lot of guys won't agree with this, but is JP Fitzgerald. JP Fitzgerald for me, everybody he's caddied for has success. You know, Greg Owen, he caddied for Greg Owen in the States, nearly won in Bay Hill, was huge. But JP was brilliant at giving that person confidence. Like, just, you know, he could pick out their strengths, and he reminded you of that, and he got you. Like, so I put him. I say this regularly. I think, and it's not because he's Irish, but I've seen him a lot. I've seen all the best. Like Joe LeCav is great, Bones, all these guys. I'm not saying they're not great caddies, and they are. Like any of those would do a great job. But for me, JP, I think I actually genuinely think if I was going playing something and JP was caddying for me, I think that he would have me performing way better than I have ever done, or that I would have thought I could.
Sure. And that's what you want.
That was so if I had for one round, I think if it's a tough one for one round because, you know, there's not much that the caddy is going to do in terms of numbers, so you do need someone who's going to relax you and you get on with. But I think JP would be a great man.
I like the answer. Hey, Ronan, thank you for the time. I'm glad we could finally do this. Looking forward to following you guys for the rest of the year, and excited for the next time I get to run into you out on tour. Really appreciate it.
Perfect. We look forward to seeing it.